I'd just like to say before we get into the video, I'm really sorry about the audio. We're trying our best. We're cutting in between the wind, but we are outside and it's very, very windy today. Even though that's a clear blue sky, wind example, it's quite windy today. So we're trying our best, but I just want to say I'm really sorry and hopefully you can hear us. Thank you. In this video, we are talking about the front crawl kick or the freestyle kick. I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to practice, some common problems, and I'm going to show you and demonstrate the ideal kick for front crawl for swimming for exercise. And I'll talk about performance swimming as well, as in swimming very quickly. But I realise this is a swim basics video and you might just be learning front crawl for the first time. So with that in mind, let's get into it. The flutter kick is the ideal kick for front crawl. When you're swimming for exercise versus swimming in a race, I realise this is a swim basics video, so a lot of you might be swimming, learning front crawl for the first time. The flutter kick is the most efficient kick, yet maintaining the body position, so it's a healthy balance between pushing your body forward and not using too much energy to keep yourself up at the top. I'll show you now what it looks like underwater and then we can talk about how to practice it. This is the flutter kick. I've got floppy feet, floppy ankles, my knees are bending. I'll show you it now in slow motion. What you can see is there's an undulation that starts from the hip and it springs all the way down through the knee, through the ankle. My ankles are not rigid and the tops of my feet are what's pushing against the water, pushing it down and behind me, and that is what's moving me through the water. I'm going to voice over this section because of the wind. How are you going to practice your flutter kick? Start at a wall. It might be a bar or a ledge in the pool, but anything that can support your body weight. Start on your back first so you can see your feet. You want to have really relaxed legs and floppy feet. You don't want your ankles to be rigid. You want to be nice and loose, and you're going to shake your ankles up and down. Essentially, I'm using my feet as paddles to push that water down, and that is keeping them up. This flutter kick is great because it means that you can keep yourself up at the top of the water and not use too much energy. I'm actually doing it quite slow at the moment. I'll speed it up to how I would do it when I'm swimming, which is roughly about that speed. You don't want to be going any faster. You'll notice that I'm not making any splashes, i.e. I'm not bringing my feet out of the water, because for the portion that your foot is out of the water, you are not pushing any water behind you, therefore it's a waste of energy. Keep your feet below the water, don't break it, and don't make any splashes. That's the most efficient way. Once you're happy with it on your back, you can spin over and practice it on your front. I like to rest my forearms against the wall to help me pull my body up. And then to make it more difficult, once you're comfortable with that, you can stretch your arms out. I'll show you what I mean. So if you put your hands on the wall or the bar or the ledge and you rest your forearms against the wall, you can use it as leverage to lift your legs out the water. Then you can practice your flutter kick. Now this is quite easy with my forearms on the water. Eventually, once you're comfortable, you can slowly start to extend your arms, and this will make it more difficult. Now I'm having to keep myself up with that flutter kick. So it's a great way to practice if you're nervous, if you're not yet comfortable swimming in the water. If you're new to this, that's a fantastic way to get into that flutter kick and move on to the next progression, which is to get yourself a kickboard. Grab yourself a kickboard, and exactly the same as you did at the wall, fingers on the top, thumbs on the bottom, you want to stretch your arms out. Ideally have straight elbows. If you are having your arms bent like this and your arms close to your chest, you're actually not using the surface area of the float to keep you up. Whereas if you stretch your arms out, you can lean forward and almost press down on that float, and that can help you lift your legs up to the top. You can practice your flutter kick across the pool, and this is great for practicing body position as well. you'll notice that my chin is in the water. This is another thing. I know this is a legs video, but let's talk about the whole stroke. When you have your head up too high out of the water, you're going to find that your body sinks. So if you're coming to this video learning for the first time, keep your chin in the water. If you're coming to this video because you're trying to answer the question, why do my legs keep sinking? That will most likely be the reason. Your head position needs to be lower in the water, and ideally your face in. If you're new to this and you're practicing for the first time, you don't have to put your face in. Keep your chin as close to the water as possible. A great way to practice this, if you're new to this and you're a little bit nervous in the water, is to practice with the float, and you can get yourself to a wall and practice pushing off. We call this a push and glide. It looks something like this. So you're going to have your hands stretched out straight in front of you. You're going to find your feet on the wall. For the people that are nervous, it's fine to have one foot on the floor and one foot on the wall in the beginning, but ideally we want to transition to having both feet on the wall eventually. So you can push yourself off and try and glide and then find the floor. Now this might be a little bit nerve-wracking in the beginning, however, carry on practicing. Persistence, it's the only way we're going to learn. So the next after, if you haven't put both feet on your wall, is to put both feet on the wall. So stretch arms out straight in front of you, both feet on the wall, and push off. Then you can find yourself gliding. After that, the next progression is to start that flutter kick. So we're going to go back to the wall, both feet on the wall, push off, and then start that flutter kick. Practicing this is essential. The more you can practice, the more you'll find yourself able to push that water behind you, keep your legs up, and move across the pool. Once you are ready to move on to your arms, have a look at our front crawl swim basics arms video, and that will explain the arms to you. Then you can put them together and hopefully you'll have the full stroke. But if you are thinking, I still want to train my legs and get myself a little bit quicker in the water, keep my body position good, maybe your legs keep sinking, maybe you just can't quite kick them fast enough, a good exercise or drill to do is, with this kickboard, turn it up on its end so that it presents a broad front to the water. This is like a wall. As you push this through the water, it's gonna push a load of water. So when we kick and we hold this out in front of us, it creates a little resistance barrier for us, and we can train ourselves by making it much harder to progress through the water. Now this is really good for exercise if you just wanted to do this as a workout, but also this is great for body position because I'm able to use the buoyancy of the float to keep myself flat, yet I'm not really going that quick with my leg kick, so it's training me. I'm getting used to leaning forward, chin on the water of course, and practicing my flutter kick. We call this the Tombstone drill because this kind of looks like a tombstone. It's a bit morbid, but yeah, that's great. If you practice that for a couple of lengths, you'll find yourself puffed out and your legs will be better for it. A common problem I see and questions that I get quite a lot is my legs are too low, or I spot a new swimmer and they're swimming like this. Now your head is connected to your feet with your body, so it's about head position. If your legs are too low, your head position is wrong. Have a look at our head position video where I demonstrate even the smallest difference affecting the entire body. But to put it in simple terms, you want your forehead in the water and you want to be as flat on top of the water as possible. You do not want to be at an angle. One, all that water is going to hit you and slow you down, create more resistance, and you will have to work harder to move through the water. Two, you're not utilizing your body's surface area to float. The human body is very, very floaty when it's filled with air, especially with these two airbags in your lungs. but you want to use that advantage to float across the water and not use energy to keep yourself up. By doing that, you're using your legs to push yourself forward as opposed to keeping them up, and that means that energy you're putting in is used to go that way and not that way, and that's what we want. Another common problem I see is lots of splashes. Now, when you're kicking, keep your feet in the water. That is where you're going to push water behind you. Air does not push you forward across the pool. So make sure when you're doing your flutter kick, you do not let your legs exit the water to push on nothing. For the moment that your legs are out of the water, you are not going forward. So then you're putting in energy only to have nothing happen. Keep your legs below the surface of the water, practice your flutter kick, and make sure you're not disturbing the top. In performance swimming, you see, especially Olympic swimmers, you see this giant splash behind them. That's because they're kicking so hard and so fast, and their body position is so good that they have no choice but to break the water. But when you're swimming for exercise, it's generally a little bit slower, and you can control your body position, keep your legs in the water, and use all of that kick for pushing water to get you across the pool. That links into another problem, which is kicking too hard. Now, the kick shouldn't be taking a lot of energy. It should be roughly 30% kick, 70% arms in the front crawl when you're swimming for exercise. If you're performance swimming, you can put quite a lot of energy into your kick to get you going, and that's evident in as you saw with those Olympic swimmers. But essentially, if you're kicking too hard, you are most likely wasting energy. You should not be kicking to keep yourself up. You should only be kicking to move yourself through the pool. So a nice flutter kick, just to keep your legs level, body position correct, and aiding your progression when you're coming out to breathe, to keep that forward momentum. Another problem, and probably the most common one and the biggest, is being too rigid. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll show you a clip of the kick underwater now. So you can see my floppy feet here. My ankles are loose, my legs are loose, my knees are bending, and I'm able to keep my legs up at the top. Here is a clip of how not to do it. This is often how I see swimmers coming with legs that cause them to sink, and you can see that my legs actually sink here. The ankles are rigid, not good. We want our legs loose, we want our ankles floppy, and we want the tops of our feet acting as a paddle, pushing that water behind us, and essentially make sure that any energy we put into the kick is used to push our body through the water and not keep ourselves up. So you have to think of your feet as paddles. Essentially, the pad of your foot is what's pushing that water down and making you able to get that water behind you and push you across the pool. So when you think of the floppy feet, that's why we want to have our pads of our feet be as loose as possible, ankles loose, not rigid, so we're not like this, but we're able to push that water. Obviously I'm demonstrating above the water, but we're able to push that water behind us and get us moving across the pool. Recently, the Paris Olympics 2024 was on, and I was watching it with a friend, and this friend can't swim, and I've pestered him for years and years saying, your best friend is a swim teacher, why haven't you learned how to swim? This is a running joke between us, but I said, look at their legs as they were swimming front crawl, and what I was pointing out was the difference in the kick between Leon Marchand and some of the other swimmers, but it got me thinking about swimmers and the differences between them. I went on a little journey on YouTube and I started looking into the differences between Olympic swimmers, and I stumbled across Michael Phelps and Park Taiwan, I think in the 2012 Olympic Games. There's a video on YouTube that shows an underwater shot, and Michael Phelps' legs are absolutely running. They're really kicking, whereas Park's are kind of doing a flutter kick, and sometimes he kind of pauses his beat as well. And it demonstrated me, and I spoke to my friend and I said, it just goes to show there is a difference in style. You can be swimming correctly to yourself that might just work for you, and that might be the most efficient for you. These are Olympic swimmers, they're competing at the highest level, and yet there's quite a lot of variance between their stroke, so it's something to think about. Thank you for watching today's video. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, or even make you a video explaining the point further. Please consider subscribing to our channel if you enjoyed today's video. It really helps us out, and it helps us continue to make these free educational videos in these amazing locations. We've had some questions about personal tuition. Now this is something we do offer. We've set up a Patreon facility to help enable this. We've got 10 slots available for monthly sessions. You can record yourself swimming and send it to me. I can watch it before our meeting and give you direct feedback on things you need to improve, any problems you're having. You can ask all the questions you want and we can answer them all ready for you to practice when you go and swim by yourself. I can send you tips and advice as we go, and we can have a chat as many times as you want throughout the month. Pop over there, the link's in the description, have a look and see if it's for you, get in touch with us, and yeah, happy to help out. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hi.